Our theme for tonight is seeking. That's why we started out by talking about desires. See? Told you it would tie in. So, have you ever found yourself drawn to something, but with no explanation? Like, we all have some desire, like this deep-seated longing that we don't really have an answer for. And sometimes we try to mask it or fill it with other things. All humans seek happiness. It's a basic desire that we all share, unanimously. But why is happiness so important? Where does it come from? And how can we truly be happy? What does that even mean? Well, one of the main desires that we all share as humans is a desire to be loved and cared for. Think about when you're most vulnerable. When you're sick or when you're sad, probably. What kinds of things do you want in those moments? How do you feel? What do you need? God created each of us with human desires, with needs. But what does that mean? It's a calling deep within us, this hearkening back to the way in which we were made and who made us. That's what it is. Something is calling us, and in this confusing world, it's sometimes hard to hear and answer that call. As we prepare for confirmation, we'll be exploring what those desires are and how we can fulfill them. So, unfortunately, we live in a far from perfect world. I don't need to spell that out for you guys. It's pretty obvious, right? We know that there is human suffering, and that suffering is sometimes the result of someone's desire or emotion causing them to harm someone else or do something selfishly that gets in someone's way. Our desires can also leave us feeling empty if they're not rooted in the right thing. We seek to fill our lives with things that end up not being good for us sometimes, or things that don't last. In the chaos of this world, we're told all kinds of lies about what we need or deserve. And when we pursue them, we're left with a certain emptiness. And, sometimes it's greater than other times. How many of you can think of a time when you sought something out that ended up not being what you actually wanted? How do we even know what we actually want? I remember when I was in middle school, Facebook was coming out, okay? It was already out for a few years, but it was starting to get to my generation. And man, I wanted to be on Facebook so bad. Like, whenever I went to my friends' houses, they were allowed to have it, and we would, sit there and scroll through it, and we would play, what's the little Farmville that they have on it? Man, yeah. I remember being like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I need one of these. And so I went behind my parents' back, and I created an account. And of course they found out, because they're smart. Parents, they do that thing. And I remember being like, you know what, this wasn't worth all the trouble that I got in. Facebook isn't really fun. You guys probably don't even have Facebook because you're too cool for Facebook because it's kind of lame. And I just remember feeling so empty after that, and especially once I got in all this trouble and realizing, like, that was so empty. That was not worth betraying my parents' trust, because it just left me feeling more empty, and like this desire, like, wasn't worth it. It didn't get me anywhere. And so that's my example. But in the example that maybe you thought of, why do you think you were not satisfied with what you got? What do you think you were actually looking for? What was I actually looking for in getting this brand spanking new Facebook account? we sometimes struggle with articulating our desires or our needs. In some cases, we may not even know why it is that we desire what we're desiring, or what it is that we really truly do desire. And everyone knows that, like, one person whose response is it's always, I don't care. In reality, we know that they do care. And the conversation, might go something like this. Where do you want to go to dinner? Oh, I don't care. Well, okay, what about hamburgers, maybe? No, I don't really want hamburgers. Okay, what about Italian food then, right? And they're like, that doesn't really sound good. Okay, pizza? No. Okay, dude, obviously you have some desires. You're just not telling me what they are, That's kind of how it goes most of the time. I am, way too guilty of being that person who's like, oh, I don't know, to my husband, I don't know what I want for dinner, you pick. And then everything he picks, I'm like, no, not that one, though. Obviously, they actually have a desire, just not articulating it. And it's even difficult for us to discern our own needs and wants at times in this way. I mean, if we can't figure out what we want, how are we supposed to figure out what God wants from us or for us? Our true desires are written on our hearts already. They're woven deep into the fabric of our creation. But do we know our own heart? Can we hear what it is that's calling out to us? As we grow and mature, so do our desires and our longings. Think about what you wanted as a kid versus what you want now. Life is a journey of maturity, so too is your faith. And what you needed as a kid is not the same as what you need in your faith right now. The time that you invested in your faith as a child is not the time that it needs now. When you were young, your parents stood before the church and they declared that they would raise you in the faith. That was at your baptism. And you were plunged into the water and rose as a new creation, as being reborn. But that was their choice. That was their decision, not yours. Especially if it was, done as a baby. And, where you are now, or, when you're young, your parents decide how to fulfill your needs and your desires. They're the ones who feed you. They're the ones who take care of you. They're the ones who change your diapers. They know your needs. Sometimes they're pretty obvious. And they know your desires. They know when you're hungry. And they take care of it for you. But as you grow, you get to decide for yourself more and more the older that you get. Confirmation is just the beginning of your faith journey. This is something that you're going to hear me emphasize over and over again throughout this whole process. And that's because it's the moment when you stand up as an adult in the church and you take ownership of your faith. It's no longer the faith of your parents, but it's yours. It's your own. And it's the beginning of your journey towards true happiness. Fulfilling those desires in a way that lasts. And chasing not what's fleeting, but what's eternal. As we learned over the course of this program, life is bigger than our small sphere of influence. Life is bigger than just what's going on immediately around you at any given moment. There's something bigger going on around us. There's a deeper meaning to our human longings and the things that we continue to seek. Confirmation completes the grace that was given to us at our baptism. Now it's your turn to stand up and make a decision about your faith. To choose today whom you will serve. That's from the Catechism and from Joshua 24:15. Everyone on this earth is looking for something. We all have desires, yearnings, if you will, that we're seeking to fulfill. The purpose of our lives becomes how we choose to fill those desires. Most people spend their entire lives spinning their wheels stuck in the mud of this life without much thought about what's beyond, about what's bigger than themselves. But luckily for us, this world is not the only thing on our horizon. We're not here to just live for the things of this world, or to focus on just our very earthly needs and desires. There's so much bigger than that. Because, spoiler alert, this journey, the journey that we're embarking on over the course of this program, can be previewed by a special saint. If you've heard of Saint Therese of Lisieux, beautiful name, beautiful woman. And she wrote, "The world is thy ship, not thy home." The world is the vessel through which we're trying to get to that better horizon, that deeper purpose, meaning, desire. It's not where we're supposed to stay, and it's not what we're supposed to focus on. The world is thy ship, not thy home.